Welcome to the Nebula Music Podcast, an interview series where I talk to some of today's most influential musicians, bands, artists, entrepreneurs, and basically anyone who's killing it in the music industry. Today I'm excited to be speaking with David Dockery, a very talented drummer who I guarantee you've seen his videos on Facebook or YouTube because almost everything that this guy does goes viral. And it's very well deserved because his videos are very creative. They're fun to watch. He's essentially the guy who syncs up his drum set, basically playing drums to very famous TV scenes, movie scenes, basically anything funny that he can find. He syncs up a really cool beat to that video. And I really wanted to explore that process. I wanted to talk to David and understand how it is that he came up with that style and how he continues to be creative and what really is next for this guy. And I love this conversation. I love understanding how it is that he created something brand new, basically out of nothing. And so I'm very excited to share this conversation. Now, at the end of the episode, if you do enjoy the interview, please consider subscribing because I do this every week. I try my best to bring the best musicians or basically anyone who's doing something cool with music. I like to bring them on the show, talk to them about their process, and basically figure out what keeps them motivated to always move forward. But let's not waste any more time. Let's dive right in. All right, what's up, guys? Thank you so much for joining me again. I'm very excited because I have someone that I've been looking forward to reaching out and getting him on the show because this drummer has been making a splash on the internet with a lot of the stuff that he has created. And I guarantee you, once you hear his name or once you know exactly what he does, you'll know exactly who he is. I'm very excited to have David Dockery on the show. David, how are you?
I'm good, Eddie. Thanks for having me on, man.
No, of course, man. I'm the one who's excited. Guys, if you guys don't know who David is, I guarantee you've seen his videos on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, because a lot of the stuff that this guy makes goes viral. And I want to explain it a little bit of what you do, but I think I would much rather you hear or like you explain it yourself. But you essentially make drum videos and you not attach them, but you play drums to popular videos and you sync up your drums to that. So David, why don't you just walk me through a little bit of like what it is that you do with the drums and then maybe a little bit about how you got started with it, and we'll just go from there if that's cool.
That's totally cool. So what I do is I take I guess iconic scenes from like TV shows or movies or whatever, cartoons, and I kind of compose almost like a drum score, I guess, that goes in sync with the words of the actors, like the dialogue. So it kind of just emphasizes the rhythm of their words, if you get me.
Yeah.
That's pretty much been my whole thing for like the last year or even more at this point.
Yeah, like when did you guys when was the first time that you made a video like that? And to emphasize a little bit on what David is saying, I would say that one of the first videos that I saw that you made is you basically synced your drum set perfectly. Like you played random grooves and fills to a video that I saw of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's a clip that I saw, the first one that I saw at least, and I'm not sure that's the first one. And it just exploded. Like the internet exploded with this video, and it's insane. And so I'm curious, was that your first one, or was there another one?
Yeah, that was my first one. That was it's actually just over. It was almost exactly a year ago. It was last March that I uploaded it. That was the first one I did, and it just kind of went crazy. Like I uploaded it to YouTube, and then I went to bed, and then I woke up, and I was just like, "That's an awful lot of notifications," and I checked it, and it went kind of crazy on YouTube and stuff. And then I posted it that morning on Facebook. And then I went and I got a haircut, and I came back and I was like, "That's an awful lot of notifications," But yeah. So the moral of the story is get your haircut often, But no, I just did it, and it just kind of went crazy. But I put it on Reddit, and they kind of ran with it. Like I uploaded it onto the drums section of Reddit, and then someone else posted it onto the videos section of Reddit, and it did really well on both of those. And yeah, the internet just kind of took it and ran with it. Like it kind of becomes the internet's property. Once you put it out there, it just goes on its own, But yeah, it was insane. My mind was blown for a good week. Like I couldn't even really comprehend it, that kind of way. 'Cause it's like so much, all of a sudden, just so much attention on you.
Yeah. I mean, what gave you the idea to do something like that? Because obviously I feel like the idea of putting music or syncing up music to a video isn't necessarily a new thing. I know I've seen other instrumentalists do the same thing with other videos, like with Trump videos, with like other random YouTube videos. But yours was the first one that I saw on a drum set. So I'm curious, like, did you like contemplate that early on? Did you just do it one day? Like, how did that, happen for you?
Yeah, what happened was I had a few months previous, I had just bought a mic on a whim, like a portable, like a condenser, like a Zoom mic, just to record myself practicing. Like I was just thinking I'd like, whatever I'm jamming at the moment, I'll record and put it on Instagram or something like that, just for fun. But I kind of I had the idea one day. I think it was like in a couple of months after I got the mic, just to I had found a clip of one of my favorite musicians, Jacob Collier, playing a piano piece and singing, and there was no drums on it. So I was like, it'd be cool to try and add some drums onto it. So I did that, and I had a lot of fun doing it, and I did another one like that as well again. And then I wanted to keep doing that thing with like musicians and like adding drums to their performances. Yeah. But I couldn't really find that many, performances without drums. So I was kind of looking down through my YouTube likes, like the videos that I've liked, and I couldn't find anything. But I just saw that Pepe Silvia scene, and I was like, I wonder would it be possible, because it's like that's one of my favorite shows of all time. And
I love that show.
It's just so intense. That whole scene is so intense. I was like, it kind of might work. And I just kind of started doing it, and I wasn't really, I just kind of did it for fun and for practice. And before I knew it, I was like, okay, I got the whole scene done. Does it actually sound any good? And then it sounded pretty cool. So I just threw it out, and it worked, and people seem to really dig it,
Yeah, it's insane. Like if any of you guys that listen to this podcast haven't necessarily seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, I mean, it's an intense show. It's hilarious, and it's not necessarily for everyone, but I absolutely love that show. And that scene that you did has two of the main characters essentially in a mail room, and they're just freaking out about mail. And one of the characters is creating this gigantic conspiracy, and he's just ranting for a minute, just really fast paced. And you came in and you basically synced up all the words, but you compose basically a drum etude or like a solo on the drum set that goes along very, very well with everything that they say. Like, I'm curious, did you just sort of sit down and just mess around? Did you actually take your time writing it out, or how did that work?
Well, I definitely didn't write it out, because I'm not too good at reading or writing music. I did it all by ear, and it was strange. Like that one in particular, I'm not it was almost like it was just, I hate using the phrase, but meant to be, because I started doing it and I just found it it just kind of happened. I didn't really ever have to kind of, wonder if that part's going to work there or if that's going to work there. It just the beats kind of just came to me. I was just really following my nose with it. There was some parts, I don't know, some parts of it, it was as if when I hear it, and it's the case with some of the other ones that I've done recently too. It's just when you hear a line, it's there really is only one way that I can think that I'd be able to play that and have it sound good. And I just kind of did that piece by piece, and it's just before I knew it had come together as an entire piece, like a solo, like you said yourself,
Yeah. And you know what I noticed that was interesting for me is that your drum skill essentially with a lot of these videos it's very top notch. I can tell by watching you play that you're a very good drummer. You have technique, you have knowledge on what you're playing. I'm curious. So obviously, because you're doing all these videos and you're getting some good recognition because of it, a lot of people on YouTube can see that you have a lot of skill, and it takes skill to be able to do these videos. I'm curious, how long have you actually been playing drums? And maybe a little bit about your back story when it comes to drum set and how you got started with playing the drums.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, by the way. But no, I've been playing.
You're good, man. Come on, you're a very good drummer.
Cheers. But no, I've been playing since I was, I think, about 11, which would be 15 years now at this point. But I, to be honest, I'd say that I've only really become serious about the technique side of things in the last, I'd say, 4 years. But but no, I started when I was 11. I just got a set because I was my brother plays music, and he always kind of had music playing in the house, and he live concert DVDs playing in the house, and I always remember I'd always kind of gravitate towards just watching the drums as opposed to the other instruments. Yeah. But and also like my brother was in a band too, and the drummer in that band was really good, and I loved watching him play, and just everything just kind of made me want to just hit some drums. So I got a set when I was 11. Started playing for like a year. It was going great, but my neighbors didn't exactly like it that much. So I actually kind of had to stop because they really weren't digging it, and it's understandable. So I stopped for in my mind I was like, okay, the drums aren't for me, so because I can't practice them, so I quit essentially. But then I don't know why and how or when, but it was like probably like a year after that I picked them back up again just for no reason, and kind of was like, I just did it regardless of the neighbor situation, and it never seemed to really come to anything. So I was like, okay, it must be cool now. So kind of about a year later, I started playing drums proper. But it's always been like a kind of a self-taught type scenario, just playing songs that I like, and like I always made it a point just to learn like the songs that I was trying to learn them like as exactly as I could, like as accurately as I could to reproduce the drum track. And I'm glad I did that, because I kind of think it builds your ear, and it kind of, I mean, if you're learning like really well written drum parts, like exactly, it kind of builds up a nice musical sensibility in your head, I think, which is why I kind of credit that as to why I'm, I guess, musical on the drums. But I just did that for years. I mean, I really had no, motive to do it. I just kind of, it was fun, so I did it. And then, like I said, in the last 4 or 5 years, I was kind of like, when you start noticing that your technique is actually like falling behind, you need to actually do some work on it. Yeah. So I found that. So I started working on like rudiment stuff, and I've been doing that on and off for the last couple of years just to keep my technique up to speed. But that's been it, man. I've been just playing, just kind of because it's really fun.
Which is the important part. And you know what? I'm curious, like, what kind of music were you listening to? Like, when you were developing your ear and you were playing to songs that you really enjoyed, like, what kind of music were you practicing?
Right at the start, like I was saying, that when I was watching like live DVDs, one of the DVDs that I particularly stood out for me was the Rage Against the Machine.
Nice.
It was like the live in LA, the Grand Olympic Auditorium, I think. Was it LA? I'm not sure. But
I think it might have been, yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, it was that DVD, and I remember just watching Brad Wilk in it and just being like, that is just the coolest thing ever, like, So Rage Against the Machine were a massive one for me. I pretty much like just learned their discography over the next couple of months and years and stuff like that,
Yeah.
I remember being big into Iron Maiden, like soon after starting.
Wow.
So yeah, I was a very much like a rock kind of kid when I started off. And then I discovered the magical world of like prog.
I can tell by your style, man. I can tell.
Yeah, exactly. It's contributing to my style now. But I remember getting really big into Dream Theater, and like Mike Portnoy is definitely one of my all-time drum heroes. Like, so I kind of got into that side of things. And after those few like standout bands, it's a bit hazy, because I just kind of played whatever I was listening to at the time. That could have gone from, like I said, the wacky prog stuff to, I mean, like pop punk, like Paramore and stuff, which has some excellent drums on it too, like,
Yeah, they do actually, right?
Oh yeah, especially their first like album or two. Just the drum tracks are just so solid.
You'd be surprised like how intricate some of the drum parts in that first album were. Like you're absolutely right. I think like Paramore sometimes can be seen as that's just like a regular pop band, but they have some really good drum parts.
Oh, totally. Like they're so well written, they're just like, they don't get in the way, but they're still exciting. It's just, again, like I said, just kind of building up that kind of idea of what a good drum track is in my mind. Like it was just, I thought that was really cool. But yeah, no, it was just kind of, like I said, just taking it from there, just playing whatever I was actually digging at the time. And that pretty much just has been what I've been doing until now. I mean, I'm still kind of listening to a lot of that prog stuff as well, but like I've kind of gotten more into like there's been a huge wave of like, the kind of jazz and funk stuff, Snarky Puppy and like Buzzpeck in the last couple of years. So I've been kind of listening to a lot of that, but still the same MO,
Completely agree. You know what? I'm curious. You mentioned a good drum track, and we were talking about the Paramore album and how it stands out. I'm curious, like in your opinion, you being a great drummer and creating a movement on your own, what do you consider like a good drum track? Like for a good song, like even if we take like Paramore as an example or any other artist as an example, I'm curious like what you think is a good drum track in a song. And maybe it's a broad question. I'm just curious. Like I'm just like throwing it out there.
No, I guess it is, but I mean, it's not a redundant question. I mean, it does entirely, without wanting to kind of give a half-assed answer, like it does kind of depend on the song, obviously.
Right.
But I'd say, like, I mean, generally speaking, like a good drum track would be one that obviously carries the momentum of the song and like the energy, kind of like, because like the drums do dictate the kind of energy and like obviously the pulse of the song at any given time. So I'd say a good drum track would be one that kind of effectively conveys the energy that's needed, while also like kind of highlighting or like mirroring like the musical patterns and motifs that are going on the other instruments, and then sometimes doing the opposite, where you just like create a bed for other instruments to sit on. You know, it's just finding the balance between all of those things in the most musical way is a good drum track, I think.
That's a very good answer, by the way. For something you just sort of pulled out of your hat. I feel like you had that prepared.
No, I swear to God, I didn't.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I like that metaphor that you said, that, you know, it's almost like a bed for every single instrument. It's interesting because as drummers, like when I watch you play, right, and I want to do the same thing every time I see one of your videos come out. I just want to like shred and just play really cool things. It's like, it's so easy to get out of control. You know what I mean? And I'm curious, like, do you play a lot? Like, I know you live in Ireland, right? So I'm curious, like, do you play a lot in that scene? And do you ever feel like you have not necessarily trouble, but as a drummer, obviously, I think all of us have trouble playing too much. I'm curious, like, how your approach to playing with bands or playing with artists, if you even get a chance to do so, if you have that similar issue, or if you feel like you're pretty well disciplined or working on being more disciplined on the drums, if that makes sense.
I wouldn't even say that I'm too disciplined, but like, I mean, I definitely always I don't worry about like chops and stuff like that. I always just play for the song, to use a cliched phrase. But no, I'd be very disciplined with especially if I'm playing with an artist. Like, I'd be definitely more about just supporting the song than actually like kind of going wild on the kit. Maybe when I was younger, I might have had more of a tendency to, you know, to kind of just wild out a bit. But no, I'd be definitely very disciplined when I'm playing live.
Man, and so how often do you play live right now at the moment? Because I know YouTube and the videos that you make probably take up a lot of your time, or at least a good chunk of your time. Do you also spend the same amount of time or some other amount of time playing with bands or artists in your local music scene?
No, I wouldn't say I spend the same amount of time, but I do spend some. I mean, I play music for a living as well, so I play at weddings and stuff like that. Like 90% of the musicians on the planet, I rely on weddings for my income, you know. But,
why is that? Why are we all part of wedding bands?
I really don't know. And what I want to know is how so many people are getting married that we can all stay and work. I understand.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. But so that's what I do for a living. So that's like my weekends are taken up by that normally. But no, that's about the height of it. I mean, other than that, I'll have the odd gig with like, say, friends in bands who need someone to stand in, or if there's like a one-off gig here and there. But at the moment, like, I don't have any kind of main like artist that I'm playing with.
Right. And so obviously you're born and raised in Ireland, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, first of all, where in Ireland do you live, or you grew up in? Dublin?
So no, not Dublin, but I'm
I apologize. That's the only city I know.
Yeah. No, I'm not in Dublin, but I'm not far from it. I'm like an hour's drive away. So I'm essentially able to gig in Dublin, you know, at a kind of on short notice. But no, I live pretty much directly in the centre of Ireland in a small town called Athlone.
I'm curious, like, okay, I've honestly never been to Ireland, and it's on my list for the next year to go ahead and visit out there. I'm always curious about like the music scenes in different areas and like how different it is versus other countries or cities or states or whatever. I'm curious, like, how do you see the music scene in Ireland? What is like the predominant like music style that people love to go out and listen to? Obviously weddings, we discussed that.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm curious, like, maybe you know, or maybe even give me some insight on that.
In Ireland at the moment, as far as I can tell, like there's always any amount of different acts kind of bubbling beneath the surface, like original stuff. But there's been this wave in the last couple of years of like, it's like Irish artists have taken American country music and kind of like Irishified it a bit, you know. And there's this Irish country wave that's going on at the moment that is just like, people are just losing their shit. Like, they're like, that is what people are all about.
Wait, so, like how? Like, hang on, because I'm curious. I'm interested.
Oh, it's literally, I mean, for the most part, like Irish country artists are kind of just like taking American country songs and kind of doing like their own cover of it. I mean, that's not all. It's like, there obviously are original country songs being written in the country as well at the moment. But yeah, I mean, I guess like the words and like the twang, as you say, like are a hallmark of it as well. But yeah, like actual country music is just huge in Ireland among young people at the moment. It's pretty bizarre, to be honest, to me anyway.
I've never heard of that before. And why do you think that is? I mean, do you know by any chance?
I mean, I guess for the same reason that any pop music is popular. It's catchy stuff, and it just, I don't know. I mean, I don't see it kind of lasting like a huge length of time, but I mean, it's been a couple of years and it's still quite big. Just seems to be the latest kind of musical like trend that's happening in the country at the moment, is just that, you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess that makes sense. I mean, there's always all these bunch of different styles that come and go no matter where you go.
Yeah.
But circling back, okay, so there's one thing that I'm really curious that you mentioned a little bit earlier, and maybe it's more of a, I mean, I'm not even sure if there's like a specific answer for it, but you mentioned earlier how you took a year off primarily because, you know, there was some neighbor issues and all that stuff, which I think a lot of us drummers face, and you came back to it afterwards and, you know, you developed your style and here you are today. I'm curious if you ever put any thought into this. Do you feel like that year off, right, taking a break from the drums and not necessarily making it a chore or, you know, making it an issue for yourself, do you feel like that year off sort of helped you in any specific way to like develop your style, maybe allow it to be more fun? And I'm not even sure if that makes sense, what I'm asking, but I'm curious if you, what you think about that. Like if that year off, even if it wasn't on purpose, helped you sort of like approach the drum set with a clear mind afterwards?
Well, I'd say in this specific case, it didn't, because the year off happened so soon after like taking up the instrument that, you know, I mean, I didn't really ever find myself getting burnt out or bored on the instrument for like many years after starting. So in this case, no. But I mean, as a general thing, I'd say the idea of sometimes taking a break from an instrument isn't exactly a bad thing, you know. It's pretty easy to get burnt out on stuff, especially if you feel like you're not really progressing or anything like that. I've never taken as long of a break as that since I've been consistently playing. But like, I mean, a few weeks here and there for sure, like that happens to me all the time. And I find that it can be a pretty useful thing to kind of reignite your interest in the instrument.
Yeah. And I'm curious. So with all the videos that you're making, because you're releasing a lot of content right now, do you ever feel like, or actually, let me word it this way. The whole process of actually making a video and then posting it, all of that, is that too much work at any point, or is it pretty easy? Like, do you just basically set up a camera, film it, and then press go, and then you're good? And do you ever get burnt out after making so many videos?
I wouldn't say it's hard ever. I mean, the only hard thing is just being kind of consistent with it, to the point of like, you know, especially with the ones that kind of tend to go viral and stuff like that, they do take a lot of hours to get to take. But yeah,
like how many hours? I'm curious.
I mean, they're generally between like a minute and a half long. So to work it out probably takes anywhere like up to like 10 hours of, you know, not in one go, obviously, but like right. Over the space of however, like a week or more. And then to get the take can take, I guess, a couple of hours on its own, because I don't really listen back and check the takes after I record each one. So I just do a bunch of them. Wow. And then I come, you know, like I'll do like 30 or something like that I think are good, and then come home and like listen to them and see if anything worked. But I never really feel like it's difficult. I mean, like it's challenging, but never like to the point of me wanting to not do it. And for the other videos where they, you know, where I'm just playing along with like music, or the videos like I do with video game music and stuff like that, that's just fun. Like, I mean, that doesn't take, that's generally what I do. Like after trying some takes of the hard ones, I'll just like jam some fun music for a while, you know, just to kind of let off some steam.
Yeah, actually, I'm curious, like, what is one of the harder ones that you've done so far? Because, again, you have so many that you've done, and you are starting to branch off into different genres and different areas. Yeah. I know you just released, like, a Twilight series one, which is amazing. What do you feel like is one of the hardest one or harder ones that you've made so far?
The hardest one to get was definitely the one of The Rock. It was the third one I did. And that was actually, it's one of my favorites, though, like, still to listen to, but I just, whatever it was at the time, I was just, it was a combination of it being tricky, and I, for some reason on that particular clip, I was way more of a perfectionist about it than I was with any of the other ones. like I was like, I'm going to keep doing this until absolutely every inch of this is perfect. Like I don't know why I decided this, but I was like, I got to get this one perfect. So it took me, like there was, like I said, when I go out and I do like a bunch of takes, I did that once and I thought I got it. And I came home and I figured out that I didn't. Then I went back like later that evening. I was like, okay, screw this. I'm going to get it. I'm determined. Like, and I did it again and I thought I got it again. And I came home and I was like, God damn it, I didn't get it. So like it took like about 3 of those kind of sessions to get the take that is actually in the video. That was definitely the hardest one. Other than that, they've pretty much all been on par with one another. Other than that, I'd say the first one was definitely the easiest because I had no real, I had no expectation of it on myself or anything like that. So I just blazed through it. Yeah, the rock one is definitely the answer to that question.
Do you feel like, and this is what's kind of piqued my curiosity with what you just said. I think it's interesting that you brought up that you basically mentioned that you had no expectations on the first one. And I know with a lot of, either my fans or people that sort of listen to the podcast, a lot of their goals are pretty much, they want to try and get their career to the next level. And they're trying to figure out where they want to go, whether they want to be a professional musician or have a social media account or whatever it is. There's a lot of people that have these goals in mind. And it's interesting to me that you say that you didn't really necessarily have any expectations for the first video, primarily because you were just having fun with it. Like we talked about earlier, you sort of just did it, felt right, you posted it, and then things happened afterwards. Do you feel like that's sort of the key of why your video was so successful, is because you approached it with no, like, you didn't necessarily have a goal for it. Like obviously you had fun and you had an idea that you wanted to put on paper, so to speak. But I'm curious, like, do you feel like you not having any expectations helped to become as successful as it became? And if you would have had like a specific goal, would it have not been as successful? I'm not sure if you ever put any thought into that. I'm curious.
I think I have kind of thought about it. I mean, something similar, I guess. To a certain extent, I do think that, because oftentimes the more organic a thing is and the less you even really care about it, probably not the right term to use, but I mean, generally, but a lot of the time, the things that you do kind of offhand end up being this big deal in your life for a while, and then kind of conversely, the things that you always like plan to the utmost degree can sometimes end up not working at all,
Yeah.
So, it's obviously impossible to say for sure, but I would say, if I had to guess, that a lot of the reason that it kind of turned out the way it did is because it was just it was all just based around having fun, and I think it kind of comes across in it as well. Apart from the fact that it's just a silly video, it's I think there is a sense of that, that energy in it is kind of there. It's very carefree.
Is that by the way, and I'm curious, like, is that sort of like your personality? Like, are you very much just like a goofball? You just kind of just have fun with it? Because that video is so silly, like, especially the first one that you posted. Again, we go back to the It's Always Sunny one with Pepisovia, which is a great scene. Like, I want to go watch that episode again. It's a great scene. Like, do you feel like that sort of reflects your personality? Like, are you just this very silly person, or are you more like serious?
Well, I don't take myself seriously. That's definitely for sure. But I mean, I am like, I'm not like a joker. I mean, I'm pretty introverted, but at the same time, I'm quite silly. I have a pretty goofy sense of humor. More than anything else, it's just that I just like having fun, and I don't really take myself too seriously at all.
Which is a good thing. It's probably why you're able to make really, really funny videos. But you know what else I'm curious about is, okay, so the first one that you made, again, Pepisovia, amazing, exploded in the internet. Afterwards, did you continue to see the same sort of success with the other videos that you posted, or was there like a bit of like a up and down kind of thing? Like some of the videos I noticed, and this is the same for everyone, even myself, when I was doing Instagram more heavily and I was posting videos every day, some videos would do great, some videos wouldn't do as great, but overall, you get better and you get more fans as you do it more often. For myself, and I'm speaking this for myself because I went through it, there were some times where I would put effort into like a video or a project that I was working on, and I would put it out to the world, and it just wouldn't do as well as like the first couple ones that I did, that I didn't put so much thought into it. And so sometimes it was a little difficult to get back into the game, to be like, oh, damn it, I put so much work into video B, didn't do so well. I'm not even sure if I want to do video C. But at the end of the day, I ended up doing video C anyways, and everything is fine. I'm curious for you, did you ever face that? Like, did you ever like be like, oh, this video didn't do as well? All your videos do well, but obviously your first one was like viral status. So I'm curious, as the next couple videos, did they do as well? And if there was some that didn't do as well, did you even care?
Well, it definitely didn't. I mean, I think to date, that Pepe Silvia one is still the most watched. Like, if I check my YouTube, like, analytics, even after, like, bringing out a new one and it gets shared on the internet and stuff, it's still got more views than it. You know, Pepe Silvia one is still just, I don't know where the people are coming from, but they're watching it, you know? But yeah, no, totally. Like, the few I did after that, and unfortunately, they did go pretty, like, to a lesser extent. They went kind of viral across Facebook and YouTube and stuff, but significantly to a lesser extent. And I kind of put it down a lot to just the fact that for the first one, it was just a very new thing for a lot of people to see. So it's got that kind of new novelty kind of factor to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I never really let it affect kind of what I do next or what I thought of what I did already. Like I did, the two I did after the Pepe Silvia one did pretty well. Not quite as well, but I was still like, I'm just going to, you know, what I do next, you know, I never really let the numbers or anything like that get to me. And like, I mean, some I've done after that as well have done even less well. I mean, they're pretty quiet videos, like traffic wise. But again, it's like, that doesn't really influence whether I want to do another one. Funnily enough, the King of the Hill one that I did, I thought,
yeah, the Boomhauer one.
yeah, I was like, does anybody even know what this show is anymore? I was like, will this do well at all? I was pretty convinced that it would just kind of simmer away and not really do that well, but it went crazy on Facebook. Like, so it is impossible to tell, and I've kind of learned that it's just, there's no point in like expecting a clip to do well or to not do well, because you really don't know.
You have no control. You really have no control.
Yeah, exactly. You've got no control over it, so you might as well just kind of, once you're happy with yourself, like once you're like happy with your products, just that's really it. You know, there's nothing else you can control.
What about the Willy Wonka one? That's another one that I saw around the internet a lot, especially on Facebook. Did that one do as well as the King of the Hill one?
That was actually the second one.
That was the second one.
That was the second one. Yeah. It didn't do as well as the King of the Hill one, I don't think, anywhere on the internet. It kind of went a bit more viral on Facebook. Like like, you know, a few more of those kind of like viral pages picked it up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the King of the Hill one still reached a lot more people.
And do you know how these like viral pages like find it? Do you feel like other people send it to them, or do you ever submit them to all these people? You basically just post it on your own stuff, right?
I posted on my page and on my like music artist page thing on Facebook. But yeah, no, it just seemed either people are sending it to the pages or they just kind of
find
people
it.
Yeah, they just find it. I don't really know how, but once they credit me, it's all good.
That is very important. It's important to definitely credit the person that makes the video. And it is true. Like, I love what you're saying, because I think a lot of the times, and I know I'm being a little bit redundant with this, but I think it's important. And I always repeat the things that I think it's something I want to nail in with anyone listening, because the goal is to really help someone to get up and do something no matter what it is. I personally believe that having expectations on certain things, not everything, but certain things, can definitely stump your growth. And I don't mean to get super philosophical here. I mean, we can talk about this for hours, honestly. But the truth being is that you really never know what's going to happen. None of us know where our career is going to take off. Like, I'm pretty sure 2 years ago, you weren't sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going to have a random viral video with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like, how random does that sound like? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But you just did it. You just went for it and you did it. And I don't know, like for me, like I'm very much motivated to try and get people to understand that sometimes you just have to go with your gut, whether that is just to have fun. You just never know. And being able to sort of separate that, being from doing something for fun and then having expectations for certain things, sometimes they just don't go hand in hand.
Exactly. And it can, as well as, yeah, like you said, I mean, if you build yourself up to thinking something's going to do really well and it doesn't, it can be pretty crushing temporarily, you know, so it's better for it to be a pleasant surprise than for it to be an unpleasant one. So I just think just kind of do it and just let it out into the world and see what happens.
Yeah. last week, a couple weeks ago, I talked with Tony Ann from the Chainsmokers, and he had a very similar statement, or a couple of similar statements, where he was essentially saying, like, he wasn't able to control the outcome of where he got, but he was able to put as much effort and as much passion into what he was doing at the moment. That's what he had control over. And I'm curious, like, about you. Obviously, when you do your videos, you have passion and you have control, and you do it to the point where you think it's good, right? When you approach and you start making a new video, do you approach it? And maybe I'm repeating the same question that we answered before, but I'm just curious a little bit more, like, how much discipline do you feel like you approach each video with? Because obviously sometimes you can just have fun with it, but you want to have fun with it to a point where you feel like it's right for you. You know what I mean? So what I'm curious is, how do you know, like, how much discipline to approach each video? And I'm not even sure if that makes sense, what I'm asking, but I'm curious, like, if you approach every time that you sit down at the drum set and you film a video, is your mindset like, all right, I'm going to make sure I get this right? Or if you're just like, I'm just going to play for 5 hours and we'll see what happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And it's definitely the former. I definitely have to make sure that it sounds good. And it definitely is important that, like, I actually enjoy watching the clip or listening to it. Not just because I have to listen to it a whole bunch when I'm learning it, but like, it feels like I can't really actually get into the feel of the rhythm of the lines if I don't actually enjoy it, or like if it doesn't make me kind of like feel something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's been a bunch of clips, like, I mean, that I haven't done, that I've tried. There's probably as many uploaded as there are, like, that I've deleted and, like, abandoned. So it definitely, a lot of it is kind of out of my hands. I don't really apply any kind of a methodology to it, but I definitely know when it's not going to work as much as I do when it is going to work. I do, like, apply discipline to it, obviously, but it's mostly kind of subconscious. Like, I don't kind of think about it too much. I just use my musical, ability as best I can. Yeah,
and you trust your instincts. You essentially know when it's going to be good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do kind of tend to know, yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that you are able to trust your instincts. And I think that's sometimes the thing that takes a while for people to really learn. You know what I mean? Because it's so easy to sit there and just, listen to other drummers or other musicians and tell yourself that this is the way that it has to be done. But I personally feel like the harder thing to do is to really understand what's good enough for you. You know what I mean? And that's going to be different for everybody. But for you, for your videos, the standard that you put on for yourself. And obviously a million people, myself included, can come up to you and be like, hey, I really think you should change the way you do things. I really think you should spend more time with it or less time with it, blah, 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 blah. But you seem to have a really good head on your shoulders and understanding that, no, I know specifically how much time I need to put in and when it's ready. And when it's done, it's done.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. I mean, I definitely have fallen into the trap, like you said before, of, I guess, comparing yourself or, like, setting an unrealistic standard for yourself with other drummers. I mean, until quite recently, like, I would have, say, if someone sent me a clip of, like, Matt Garska from Animals as Leaders, like, blazing around a drum set, I'd be like, well, I mean, what's the point? If he's that good, I mean, why would I even continue playing drums? Like, But yeah, I mean, and it's just the fact of the matter is, like, it's so much more fun as a creative pursuit when you just realize that, like, nobody else can do it like you do it, and then just, like, there's a lot of freedom and, like, inspiration that comes with that,
Absolutely. I mean, how cool is that? I mean, look, honestly, you have essentially single-handedly, in my opinion, created a movement. And still to this day, I don't think anyone has ever created a video like yours. And I don't say things on this show that I don't mean. I'm being honest. And it's interesting to me that you bring up what you said specifically, that no one can do it like you. Like, it's so easy to sit there. And Matt Garska, great example, by the way. He's a beast. Like,
he's so good.
Right? Like, I sit there and I just watch him play the performances, the songs. I mean, I can spend hours thinking about how I will never be that good. But interestingly enough, I had a similar conversation with Connor Dennis from Beartooth. And we had a very similar conversation on how, like, we can sit there and we can watch, like, Aaron Spears shred on the drum set. And he's the best at, like, gospel chops kind of thing, right? But then you can switch on and watch Steve Jordan from John Mayer's trio, right? And he doesn't essentially, quote unquote, shred as much, but he's got these fat grooves that I have never heard anyone play like he does. Completely different styles, but these two different drummers, and including Connor Dennis too, and you as well, have sort of like honed in onto what makes you unique, and you have basically owned that. You know what I mean? Because you're not Matt Garska, you're not Aaron Spears, you're not Steve Jordan, but you are David Dockery, right? And you have owned being David Dockery, and that's something I want to get across and ensure that everyone that listens and that follows you or is your fan understands that it's more important to be who you are 100%.
Yeah, exactly. And that doesn't mean that you can't take influence from any of those guys you mentioned or whatever.
Exactly.
Like, that's what you are. It's just an amalgamation of all your influences and everything you've ever heard, you know? So it's just be you, as you said.
Exactly. And and who knows, like you just being yourself, being funny, having fun with the drum set can help you create a movement just like you're doing. I mean, it's insane, man. I love the videos you make. I can't say that enough.
Oh, well, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Of course. Well, you know what? I have another couple questions. Like, how do you pick? And so when you're getting ready to make these videos, how do you pick like the next couple of ones that you're going to make? Like, do you just wake up one week and just decide to pick a video for the week, or do you have like a whole bunch kind of ready for the next couple of weeks?
Well, I only ever like know one video ahead of the next. Like, I never really kind of have a list. I mean, I have a list of ones that I could try, but I never have. I've only ever like decided on one and worked on that, and then just done it that way consistently. But like sometimes I'll just have an idea, and I'll say I'll be just thinking. I mean, when I did like the rock one, I was just like, oh, it'd be cool to do like a wrestling promo. So I just went onto YouTube and just typed in that, just best wrestling promos, and I just kind of landed on that. So sometimes I'll find things like that where I have to do a bit of searching. Other times I'll just kind of grab a load of different stuff from like movies or TV shows that I like, and just kind of try a bunch of different things. But there's never really any way that I do it. Like I said, it is really just up to, or it comes to just like trying the clips and then just going with my gut whether they're going to work or not, or whether I even enjoy playing them or not.
Absolutely, man. And I think you have basically said it better than I could ever say. Like, I think I love the way you think about things. Like, I love how you just go with your gut. Like, that's one of my favorite things about what you've been saying today, is that it shows, your success for your videos. It shows that going with your gut, obviously there are times, and obviously we can argue this in multiple ways, but there are times where being planned and understanding where you want to go is important. But I personally believe that going with your gut, essentially we all know exactly what's right for us. And I think you have found that, Yeah,
I think I've just been very lucky to have found that, because like you said, everyone should just do that, and like everyone has a version of what I'm doing. It might not necessarily be even quite similar, but yeah, like you said, I mean, like, and it's just a matter of whether you talk yourself out of it or not.
Absolutely. And so I'm curious, like, as we wrap things up, like, what's next for you? Like, obviously we've been talking about going with your gut and just sort of doing what's fun for you. Do you feel like this is something you want to keep doing for like a long time? Do you want to necessarily do some more different things with music? Like, I'm just curious to see if maybe you have some more long-term goals, or if you don't even care. I mean, who knows?
Well, I'm definitely still enjoying doing these videos. So I don't know for how long I'll do them, but I'm definitely not getting really tired of it yet.
You shouldn't be. They're fun.
And they keep me on my toes too. They're good practice, and they're for my ear and my technique. So no, I'll keep doing these for as long as I have fun with them. I'd love to get gigging with like live acts and stuff like that. That's really what I'd want to make a kind of a path out of. If we're thinking long term, but yeah, I think for the moment we'll just be doing that. Like, just following my gut and just doing the next fun thing after the next fun thing.
Yeah, and essentially start playing some Irish country music, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the ultimate goal.
You ever think of moving like to another country, pursuing
totally,
more music?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, the States is the place to be. By all accounts, just somewhere in America, anyways, whether it be New York or LA or Philadelphia or wherever. Like, it is kind of the place to be. So, I mean, that would be great, but it's just a matter of kind of having my ducks in a row and having a thing to move over for, as opposed to just kind of trying it blind. I'd be pretty intimidated to do that, it takes quite a bit of planning and money more than anything else too. So, I mean, it is something that I'm definitely going to endeavor to do, but it's just, I can't really put a time frame on it,
Whenever the time is right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, honestly, I love the fact that we got a chance to talk, and this is a bit of a side note, but like, I love I know I mentioned this earlier in the show, but I love the show It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. More so because the people that actually make the show are very cool people. Here's an interesting side note for you, David. I actually met the cast of It's Always Sunny by accident when I was in college. Right. I'm not sure if you remember, but I think it was season 9. Have you seen the whole show? Like from beginning to end? Okay, so then you'll know. Okay, so you'll know season 9 with Country Mac. Remember that episode?
Yeah.
Oh, so they filmed part of that show, that episode at my school. They actually filmed multiple episodes, but that specific episode, they filmed it at my school at the time. And I remember they filmed it very close to the music department. And our music building was pretty much at the back of the campus where no one really hangs out, just musicians.
Yeah.
And that's primarily why they did it, so that they wouldn't interrupt anyone else. And so we come out, and I just see my classmates like freaking out because they're like hanging out with all these actors, and I hadn't started seeing the show just yet. So I'm just kind of mingling with people, and all my friends were like, hey, let's all take a picture. And, these actors started taking pictures with us. And then out of nowhere, this very short character shows up, and he approaches me. He's like, hey, do you want to take a picture? I was just like, sure. I have no idea who you are, but sure, let's take a picture. And we took like a couple selfies together. Guess who that was?
I can only assume it was Danny DeVito.
It wasn't Danny DeVito. It was Charlie. It was Charlie.
Oh, right.
Man.
When you said short, I thought you meant Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito was actually taking pictures with the rest of the people, but Charlie is such a cool dude. Like, we talked for like 5 minutes, and I had no idea who he was. And I think like a year or two later, Pacific Rim came out, and I had already started seeing the show, and I recognized him. I'm like, oh my God, that's who that guy was. And I have the pictures, and I'm going to send them to you just so you can see them.
Yeah, definitely.
They're amazing. And so, guys, if you haven't gotten a chance to see David's videos, I highly urge you guys to do so, because they're just inspiring and they're funny. They're just fun to watch, and I can see you enjoying them in the video. And even though we've covered a lot of topics, and I really got a chance to understand your thought process with these videos, if there was someone out there that essentially wants to do something that you're doing, whether it's, putting music to videos, doing their own YouTube stuff, Instagram stuff, even though we covered this, I'm curious, like, what would you suggest for these people to be doing right now, or maybe today, tomorrow, next week, something that they could be doing to help them get started on what it is that they want to do?
Okay. Well, I guess I'd just say, we've already covered this. We've already covered this kind of, doing what you feel is what you want to do. But I'd also say that, like, don't be discouraged by if it doesn't work right off the bat, because, your network mightn't be like, you mightn't reach the most people when you do it first, because you mightn't have a big network. But beyond that, there could be people who would really love to see what you're doing. So just kind of, if you're having fun doing it, and if you think it's good for you as a musician or as a human, just do it until you feel like you shouldn't be doing it anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, so important. Do it until you don't feel you should be doing it anymore. That's actually another really important point that you bring up. Just like I love it, because I think it's so easy for people, and obviously if you can't tell, I'm like really inspired by this stuff. It's I honestly am a huge fan of following your gut, and I think that's important too when it's time to come to an end. When something is no longer fun anymore, it's definitely a good time to recalibrate and see what are you doing wrong. Because for you, your videos are doing well because you have fun with it. And if it came to a point where it was a chore or a stressful thing, I imagine that they could suffer a bit. But who knows? But it's just like my mindset towards that.
Yeah, exactly. The day that I realized that I'm maybe not having fun doing them is I'll just probably not do them anymore, but I might do some other cool thing that people might like, but they might hate, that's it. It's cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely, man. I love talking to you, man. I just love your thought process, man. And again, that's David Dockery, man. Just type in his name on YouTube. I guarantee you'll see that Pepe Sylvia, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia scene come up like right away, and you'll instantly fall in love with what David does. So thanks again, man, for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all, man. Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with David. I know that I definitely did. And I say this at the end of every episode because I feel like it's necessary. I put myself in your shoes as much as I can. You guys who are listening, I'm always learning. And I think it's important to always be learning and always have an open mind, no matter how good you get at your instrument or how good you get at your industry or just creative process. You're never too good to learn something new. And David is a huge inspiration for me because ever since his videos came out, I have fallen in love with his style because it's so out there, it's so new, it's so creative, and maybe he isn't the first person to sync drums to like a scene or something on TV, but he's definitely the first one to make it popular. I love how he basically just has fun with it, and that's something that I've talked about in this show many times before, and I think it's important. We live in a day and age where, with media and everything, we're constantly hustling and trying to be the best versions of us that we can be. And that's something I condone. That's something that I do myself. But I also like to take time to remind you to have fun with what you're doing. When something that you enjoy becomes a chore, then it's no longer a passion. It's no longer something that you'll want to do. Even if you have the best discipline, you end up being miserable down the line. And I'm not trying to be a downer on this little outro, but I'm just trying to tell what's in my heart and what I basically learned from this interview is David has fun. He has fun with what he does. And because of that, and maybe a couple other variables as well, his videos have seen enormous success because he's just having fun. And I feel like I've said fun a million times in this outro, so I'll go ahead and basically end it right there. But just remember, no matter what you're doing, whether you're playing with a band, whether you're trying to write your own music, whether you're trying to find a job in the music industry, have fun with it. That at its core is probably the most important thing other than being disciplined and having motivation and being able to move forward. Have fun, always. And if you did enjoy this interview, please consider subscribing because I do this every week as much as I possibly can. I bring on cool musicians, cool artists, anyone in the industry that's doing something cool. I bring them on the show, talk to them about their process and what keeps them motivated so that they can inspire you to do the same.